And so we continue. Neville says our next story is from the 4th chapter of the Gospel of John. And it is one you have heard time and time again. Jesus comes to the well, and there is a woman called the woman of Samaria. And he said to her, "Give me to drink." John chapter 4, verse 7. Then said the woman of Samaria unto him, "How is it that you, being a Jew, ask drink of me, which am a woman of Samaria? For the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans." Jesus answered and said unto her, "If you knew the gift of God, and who it is that said to you, 'Give me to drink,' you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." The woman, seeing that he has nothing with which to draw the water, and knowing the well is deep, says, "Are you greater than our father Jacob, which gave us the well, and drank thereof himself and his children and his cattle?" Jesus answered and said unto her, "Whosoever drink of this water shall thirst again." Anything that has to do with the physical will leave you thirsty again. This is what Jesus is saying. "But whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst, but the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water springing up into everlasting life." You know, the reason why that is said about the water, of course, is that, anything that's in this world that's just physical is at some point going to pass away. It's going to be as if it were no more. And that's why we talk about the aspect that you are an immortal, infinite being who was never born and will never die. You were thought in the mind of God before the foundation of this earth was even laid. And you will ever be a thought in the mind of God. You are being a person in the mind of God. What this is about is that God, recognizing the God in you, the kingdom of God in you, the kingdom of heaven in you. And so he tells her that if you drink of this water, you're going to be thirsty again. But what I'm about to give you, this water that I'm about to give you, shall be in you a well of water, and it springs up into everlasting life, and you shall never thirst again. Then he tells her all concerning herself and asks her to go and call her husband. She answers and says, "I have no husband." Jesus said to her, "You have answered well. You have no husband, for you've had 5 husbands, and he whom you are now with is not your husband," Jesus tells her. The woman, knowing this to be true, goes into the marketplace, and she tells others, "I have met the Messiah." They asked her, "How do you know you have met the Messiah?" "Because he told me all things I had ever done," she replies. Here is a focus that takes into the entire past at least, and tells her now concerning her future. So in the realm of spirit, past, present, and future are happening now. And which one gets your attention? Continuing with the story, the disciples come to Jesus and say, "Master, eat." But he said unto them, "I have meat to eat that you know not of." When they speak of a harvest in 4 months, Jesus replies to them, Do not say, "There are 4 months, and then comes the harvest." Behold, I say unto you, lift up your eyes, open your eyes, be awake, be aware, and look on the fields, for they are white already to harvest. That's truly true today. It's true right now. There's a shift that's coming. There's something that's happening that individuals thought would take a long time. It's happening now. He sees things that people wait 4 months for, or wait 4 years for. He sees them as now in the dimensionally larger world, existing now, taking place now. That's what Jesus sees. This is amazing, because the invitation that is extended to you is to see as Jesus sees, to have the mind of Christ. Remember, the apostle said, we have the mind of Christ. That's so vital today. Now let's go back to the story, Neville says, and look at the story. The woman of Samaria is the 3-dimensional you. And Jesus at the well is the 4th-dimensional you. You are all the characters in the story. The argument starts between what you want to be and what reason tells you that you are, what your senses tell you that you are. The greater you tells you that if you would dare assume you are already what you want to be, you will become it. Jesus the Christ, your consciousness tells you that if you would dare assume that you are already, that's what faith is, that's what this science is about, you are already what you want to be, you will become it. The lesser you with this limited focus, this three-dimensional you, tells you to check your senses. It looks at the fourth dimension and says you haven't got a bucket, you don't have a rope, the well is deep, look at your circumstances. There is no way that this can come to pass. How in the world can you reach the depth of this state without the means to an end? How can you get there from here? You answer and say, if you only knew who it was asking of you a drink, you would ask. You would begin to ask. This word that's coming to you, you would begin to ask because you become hungry and thirsty as you consider the possibility that your desires can actually come to pass, because what we're talking about is a science, and you're becoming a practitioner of science, a scientist, if you will, in the things of spirit, in the things of mind. If you only knew what in yourself is urging upon you the embodiment of the state you now see, you would suspend your little sight and let your consciousness do it. Let God do it. Then he tells you that you have had 5 husbands and you deny it. But he knows better, far better than you, that your 5 senses impregnate you morning, noon, and night with their limitations. They tell you what children you will bear tonight, tomorrow, and the days to come. Your 5 senses. For your 5 senses act like 5 husbands who constantly impregnate your consciousness. Your consciousness is the great womb of God. And morning, noon, and night, they suggest to you and dictate to you that which you must accept as true. You believe it because your 5 senses, your 5 past husbands are constantly telling you that this is the way it is. The children that have been birthed in you by virtue of those 5 senses, you keep saying those are the only children, and the you that bore them is the only you. And he tells you that the one would be the 6th husband that's not your husband. In other words, the 6th one has not yet impregnated you. What you would like to be is denied by the 5, and they hold the power. They dictate what you will accept as true. What you would like to accept has not yet penetrated your mind and impregnated your mind with its reality. He whom you call husband is really not your husband. You are not bearing his likeness. To bear his likeness is proof that you are his wife. At least you have known him intimately. You are not bearing the likeness of the 6th, this 6th sense, if you will, this intuition, this spiritual sense. You are only bearing the likeness of the 5. Then one turns to me and tells me all that I have ever known. I go back in my mind's eye, and reason tells me that all through my life I've always accepted the limitations of my senses. I've always looked upon them, in fact, as fact, morning, noon, and night. I have bore witness to this acceptance. What do you talk about? What do you focus on? Where's your attention? That's what Neville was asking. Reason tells me I have only known these 5 senses from the time I was born. Now I would like to step outside the limitations. Remember, the limiting principles, values, and beliefs. Now I would like to step outside the limitations of my senses, but I have not yet found within myself the courage to assume that I am what these 5 senses would deny that I am. And it does take courage. There are all kinds of thoughts that will come up into your mind that will scare you and seek to just push you right back into thinking the same way. But you see the future of that. You know where that's leading because you're already here.